Welcome to this week's episode of Your Stock Request for the 18th of October. Every week I will look at the charts for a few different stocks as requested by you. Email us at mail@fairmontequities.com. There's a limit of one per person and there's no guarantee that your stock will be covered depending on the demand. Also, just make note of our disclaimer. So the first request that I have is to look into the ASX 200, the XJO. So this is a daily chart here over the last year. Here is the recent trading range. It started to look like we were rolling over in the last few weeks, and then of course we've had this unexpected jump higher. Whether it's unexpected or not, the fact is we've broken out of the range to the upside. Now, what do we expect from here? Well, the previous high on the 1st of May was around this sort of 59.50 mark, so we might congest here. However, if we look at the bigger picture, this is a weekly chart. What I've clearly noticed is the previous peak near 6,000 occurred in early 2015. So essentially what we have here is a consolidation under this previous high. So that's the high there. So we've basically consolidated under that previous high already, which means while we might get a bit of a short-term blip in the market, it's most likely going to push through 6,000. So the index has been a tough one to pick over the last 4 or 5 months, which is why it's been better to concentrate on individual stocks. But at least now we have the overall index heading higher as well, which is a bit of a help for most of the trades. All right, the next stock I've been asked to look at is TAW, Tawana Resources. Very interesting as a trade. Just moving to the daily chart, obviously it's had this consolidation and broke out of that a couple of weeks ago. The volume is quite obviously increasing on the way up, which is a positive sign. So if you're looking to trade this, you might hope that it pulls back towards this 30-cent region. So I'm looking at this high over here, so it might come back to sit on top, but I'm guessing if it does pull back in the next few days, it's going to leave a bit of a gap anyway. I'll just move to a weekly chart, and you can see the bullishness of the recent move and the volume. So this thing's likely to head higher. What we need to look at in terms of targets is, we'll just zoom out a bit. So clearly we need to look at the previous peak here near 50 cents. So it'll probably head up towards that 50-cent mark and then it'll undergo another consolidation. The next chart is Aristocrat. So just having a look at the daily chart here, I'll just zoom in for you. So this is a stock that's been trending up for a while. It's pulled back and now what we've got is a double bottom. So a low here and another low over here. A double bottom in an uptrend is quite bullish. So I'll just put a little arrow there to highlight that. And we can see volume starting to come in on the way up. So just moving to a weekly chart. The only problem with this is this move down here was quite impulsive, which just has me a little bit concerned. I would have preferred to have seen a correction such as that over here, which is a little bit more flat. Just don't like the way this came off quite sharply. So we might find that there would be quite a bit of profit taking as it gets close to this high, but the longer term picture still looks pretty good. Vocus is the next one. It's had an interesting move in the last couple of days. I'll just get this horizontal line to indicate This was the previous low in May. Obviously it rallied. We had the couple of bids there, which obviously fell through. So the stock, as we could see here, it's made a marginal new low, but it only stayed down there for a couple of days. It rallied for, we can see 1, 2, 3, 4 days, and then it spent about 4 weeks heading sideways. Then it's jumped up here. So, on a short time frame, this looks like clearly a symmetrical triangle which was broken on volume, and the stock's likely to rally. Maybe initially it fills this gap up here, which I suppose if you're brave, there's a bit of a trade. But just bear in mind, if we move out to the weekly chart, I'll just move these. It's still looking a bit ordinary. So, I mean, as a holder of Vocus, you should expect some upside over the next few months. But whether you'd want to enter it as a new trade and commit more money here, you really need to see this. Ideally, you want a previous high to be taken out. So at the moment, it's still making lower lows and lower highs. Okay, next stock is Origin. So this one's been trending up quite nicely for the last 18 months. In terms of what it's going to do here, I'm a little bit neutral on it. So a couple of things I've noticed on this weekly chart, I'll just zoom in a bit more, is this correction here. This is a lower high. So what we might see is a 3-wave correction in Origin. And it looks like it could potentially be a fairly flat correction. Otherwise, if that doesn't occur, we might be seeing just the usual symmetrical triangle. Just trying to grab my drawing tool. So either way, it still looks like a hold. Couldn't be rushing into it just yet. If it does make a 3-wave and pull back towards this level and then bounces quite strongly, that would be a buy signal. Otherwise, I'd be looking for a break of this line here. And the final one is MESO. We had this in our client research last week. We put a report out around here. It's done very well so far, but there's still plenty to go. So you'll notice that it peaked in April around $3.40. It's shed quite a bit of value, but what sparked my attention was the fact that the low here was quite rounded. So you'll notice that it rounded out, and then the volume was quite low, and then the volume started to pick up on the jump up here. And I'll just grab another drawing tool, and then it came back, sat on top of this previous high, and then it's also jumped up again in quite a bullish way. Volume coming back into the stock. Yes, it has been down in the last couple of days while the market's been up, but this is the sort of stock that isn't going to do what the overall market does. It's been down for a few days, but have a look at the volume. There's really not much volume coming in on the way down. So this has quite a bit of upside, potentially. In terms of initial targets, we can grab our Fibonacci tool and look for perhaps the 38.2. The 50% comes in right at this rejection point here. But looking at this longer term, if you're not looking to make a quick buck, we'll probably take out this high. So what we're seeing is, so we've got a higher low, a higher high, another higher low. We should make another higher high. That would be a fantastic return, of course. Traders might look to put in a trailing stop, perhaps such as a 10% trailing stop. But there could be some fairly decent upside in Mesoblast. Okay, well that's it for today. Remember, you can send in your requests, mail@fairmoneequities.com. I'll put them together for my video next week. And just make sure you do the right thing by your friends and share this page.